Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to episode 71 of To The Point podcast. Hope you guys are all doing well on this Tuesday. And of course, tonight, me and Shamus are back to discuss episodes 3 and 4 of Sharper Objects. The show really gets into the weeds here. A lot of intriguing storylines, a lot of fantastic acting by a lot of great female actresses, in my opinion. Just some really great acting in these episodes. But before we dive into it, Shay, it's Tuesday, couple days of work in the books. How's your week been going so far?
Good, man. It's been a great start to the week. You just kind of get off and kick off and just start running. That's kind of how my week's gone. It's been good. It feels good to just be productive and get it started. But we're not going to overlook the fact that for the first time in his life, I think Dougie's gone solo mustache. For people listening and not watching on YouTube, this guy is rocking a dirty mustache. It looks pretty good on him, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little jealous. I don't look that good with mustache, but yeah, it's there, and yeah, it's a caterpillar for sure.
Yeah, full disclosure to all the listeners, I shaved about 25 minutes ago because my beard was just getting incredibly itchy under the mask. And I looked in the mirror and I said, yeah, this looks really bad, but let's just do it tonight for the podcast, see how much feedback I get, and then we'll shave tomorrow morning just to get this off my face. But I appreciate the kind sentiment, but
got a shout out for people listening at home. I mean, yeah. they got to know just as they got the right to know.
Yeah, no, they gotta tune into the YouTube video of this just to see my face, and then they can let me know what they think after the fact. But 3 and 4, episode 3 is called Fix. One key theme I've noticed, Shay, is you hear the name of the episode, they use it in every episode.
Really?
Yeah, and it's really subtle, but I don't know if you picked up on that. Like sometimes it's just like Fix. I'll get into this one. It's a little bit more apparent why it's called Fix. In episode 4, actually Adora says the phrase, and that's why it's named that. It's kind of like
I noticed that
joke. Yeah,
I noticed that one, and I think it was in episode 1, but I didn't notice episodes 2 and 3 when they said the name. So yeah, you kind of have to have a keen ear and when you're listening to that. But now as we'll go past, I'll be listening to it for the rest of the series.
Yeah, so just as a little refresher to everybody, obviously our main character is Camille Preaker. She's a journalist. She's coming back from St. Louis to her hometown of Wing Gap, which is kind of a bootleg Rexton, New Brunswick, if you will. It's got small town vibes. It's got your rich, it's got your more poor, and then you got one county sheriff, a few police, and it goes on from there. In this town, we've seen 2 murders of 2 teen girls in a couple months span, and Camille was sent down to write a story about it. And she's had her demons in this town, and we really get into that into episode 3 in great detail. So we start episode 3 where Camille's sister Emma is out partying. She's at this party, and there's currently a ban. You have to be inside your home by 6 p.m. I believe, and the chief vicary of the police department shines his light, tells everybody to get the hell out of there, and Emma drives home on the golf cart completely loaded and goes right into the mulch and into the flower bed of her mother's.
Yeah, it's funny because, I mean, you've already seen it throughout the first 2 episodes, but you just see 2 sides of Emma. It's the sweet, innocent little girl to her parents, and then what seems like a raging party animal to probably the rest of the world. And certainly she doesn't mind if Camille knows that. And, Camille kind of is the one to look out the window and see her, and then, kind of goes out, grabs her, brings her inside. And their relationship's just so funny, Dougie. I just can't understand if Emma actually admires Camille or is just kind of getting closer, or just, I don't know, to get at her, maybe to get shots into her. I'm not sure what's your
Right.
idea with this.
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of think she admires her in a sense because Camille got out of Wing Gap. And I think Emma wants to get out, obviously wants to get out of her mother's arms, so to speak, too. And Camille doesn't have a good relationship with Adora or her father for that matter. But I think she admires her in a sense that she got out. But Emma's also very cocky and cavalier, and she's not afraid to put down Camille at the expense of raising her own stock at the same time.
Yeah, we see that later in this episode.
Yeah, Emma, I kind of wrote down in my notes, she's a teen girl. She's going to look out for herself, and she'll put down people she probably cares about to get ahead.
Right. Yeah.
And that could be a teen guy too. I mean, we've all
it's
seen
just
growing
typical
up.
high school shit. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's just been bullying because it makes you feel better about yourself.
Right. No, exactly. So she gets home, like you said, Camille kind of gets her in her bedroom. She tells her not to tell her mother. And they kind of have this interesting conversation where obviously Emma's drunk, but Emma talks to Camille about her wants and needs. And does Camille want a family? And it kind of seems like Emma wants to get to know Camille. But again, it's a little bit confusing because she's drunk. So you could say she's her most honest when she's drunk, but at the same time, that's not always the truth either.
Yeah, it comes off a little awkward, and honestly, it's you could tell Camille's a little even uncomfortable by it because I mean, clearly in her state, she's not ready for a family. I don't know if Emma knows the extent of the depression and the alcoholism that Camille suffers with, but yeah, it's just interesting because Emma's plastered obviously and just asking her all these questions, really getting really touchy and feely with her, and you could tell Camille is not a very touchy feely kind of person.
No, not at all. She's not really comfortable with it. She doesn't know how to. I don't think she knows how to be a mother, quite frankly.
Right.
So yeah, and it's at this point that we see a flashback, and these happen all the time. They come in the middle where you at least expect it in an episode, which is interesting. You don't see that a lot in shows. So there's a flashback, and Camille is checking herself into a rehabilitation center. And there's a couple of schools of thought when I first saw this. I said, okay, is this for alcoholism or is this for depression? And I think knowing Camille the way we have two plus episodes when we're talking about this one, I probably make the assumption it's a little bit of both.
I think so. Yeah. And it's a gruesome scene, but even right before she goes in, she kind of takes the blade to her wrist. And it's really gory, and people with probably not a strong stomach probably wouldn't like to see that, and honestly probably wouldn't like this show very much. But yeah, so she goes in and then she gets herself chucked in, and that's great. And then she ends up sharing a room with a young girl, and right away you can tell the young girl is basically your basic teen. Camille walks in, she's like, what the fuck, like, and then she looks at Camille and says, don't even talk to me, like I want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, this teen, she seems kind of a loner, kind of a more gothic type teen, I'd say, more just kind of off the beaten path, so to speak. But they don't talk, but then they, the next morning Camille helps her with her hair and with her dress, with her outfit a little bit, and
up and stuff like that.
Again, you talked about having a weak stomach. They share all the cuts that they have on their body, and it's pretty disturbing. Me and you, we've watched a lot of different shows, so we're used to this type stuff. But even seeing that many and the detail that the production and the editing team had to go through to get that done. It was impressive for me.
Makeup juggy. Like I think their makeup team just does a brilliant job of getting it on there. And one thing I'll note, we have to see this. There's words being scratched into things sometimes. We've seen it on her car. You see it sometimes on tables and stuff like that. But you also see it on Camille's body. You can tell that she's cut words into her. I don't know what the words are. I've never actually gone and paused and taken a look, but you can tell they're there. They're on her stomach. There might be some on her wrist. So she's carving some kind of words into herself, which is obviously disturbing. But yeah, it's a gruesome scene to see those cuts.
Yeah, so that flashback, we'll get back to this story because it carries through the whole episode.
Exactly.
And it gets worse. At the same time, the Kansas City detective, Richard, he hates being in Wind Gap. He's sick of it. But he has this funny scene where he wakes up and he's like, what's my wish? And he looks out, damn it, I'm still in Wind Gap.
Yeah, I had to get that.
But to his credit, he's a determined son of a bitch. He's going to catch this guy however long it takes him. And, through the 2 murders, through the autopsies, all the evidence, he believes this was a crime of passion. He thinks that the murderer knew his victims, and it's Chief, Bill Vickery thinks it was a Mexican or somebody from out of town.
Yeah.
And the detective says, no way. This was a personal thing, and it's somebody from Wind Gap. It's a local that killed these girls.
Yeah, we see this kind of dispute between them, and they're very opposite. Obviously, you can tell that the chief doesn't want anything to do with the detective, just where he's an outsider. He's just treated differently overall in the town. But I mean, it's pretty blatant that the detective knows it's somebody from within Wind Gap, has a personal relationship with one of these kids. And, obviously we see more about that throughout this episode and the next, but yeah, no, it's interesting. It gets pretty good, I would say.
Yeah. And he kind of goes to the scenes of the crime. He's looking over things. At the same time, Camille is getting closer to him, but mostly for work. She wants, him on the record. She also wants his information. She goes to see him at a diner, just kind of, in an impromptu sit down. And he basically tells Camille to stay out of his way, and that he's going to find it. He doesn't need her help, and that, stay out of my way, and, we'll be fine. But if you do get my way, I'll run you over, so to speak.
Yeah, pretty much. That's his words.
So Camille, she's got to find people to interview, for her story. She's got one on the website. She talked to her editor, but he wants more stuff. He wants to get to know the families of the victims, kind of who they were as people. So she goes to see Bob Nash. This is a really interesting scene. And Bob Nash is the father of the first victim that was murdered. And he's also if one of not the top 2 suspects because he's got anger problems. He's got a couple DUIs that we learn about. He's got an assault charge. So it does kind of point him in the direction of being, a potential suspect.
Yeah, no. And this is a really interesting scene, like you pointed out. And really there was nothing bad about it. Obviously they were exchanging. I mean, he knows himself that he's one of the prime suspects. He even says that during this little interview with Camille, and everything seemed fine. Really, I don't think it was getting out of hand. And abruptly, the door knocks, and who's there but Adora, Camille's mother. And this scene, it made me cringe, Chuggy. I don't know about you, but the mother is just very, I wouldn't say obnoxious, but she is kind of a little bit like stubborn in her own way, and just kind of in her own way. She doesn't want Camille. She doesn't want Camille there, I don't think, period. But the fact that she's bugging around with all these, families of deceased little girls just outright bothers Adora.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And I agree with you. The interview was going fine. Camille, I've noticed she doesn't really ask tough questions. That's my own little bugaboo, because I've got the journalism interviewing background. So I'm kind of like, come on, Camille, ask a tough question. But, to her credit, they were having a good dialogue. He was expressing frustration about being a suspect. And, he's saying he would never hurt his daughter. He wasn't going to hurt that younger girl. And, just as they're getting somewhere, Adora flies in and she scolds Camille in front of Bob and says, "What are you doing here? This is so inappropriate." And this scene, like you said, so interesting. But when Camille leaves, it kind of flashes to her arm and you see a few cuts. And this is the type of thing that she's been dealing with since she was young, being having her sister pass away, her clearly being the second favorite child, and second favorite at a low scale. She
Yeah.
Adora has seen her as a nuisance from day one, and it's so evident. And I think it really hurts Camille's confidence, and just she can't be who she wants to be.
Right. And we see more of why Adora is like this, more towards the end of the fourth episode, which we'll probably get into.
Right.
But yeah, it's just the constant put downs by Adora, and it's every little thing that's not even Camille's fault that she turns to her. So, for example, she's fixing the weeds that Emma drives over when she was having her her night off, we'll say, and she cuts her hand. Well, she turns that into a blame into Camille for causing. She says, "You're a bad influence on Emma, and this is why she was like this." Well, no, Emma was probably like this long before Camille got there, but Adora is just finding ways to put her down any which way possible.
Right. Yeah. Both females were murdered before Camille got there, and then all of a sudden the town's gone to hell since she got there, which is not true. It's just complete idiocy. But Adora you're not gonna be able to convince Adora that she's wrong, and
Right.
she's hard-headed. And I look at Camille's situation, and I kind of tie it to, I don't know if you had to read it in high school. You might have seen the movie My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult.
Mhm.
Camille's kind of like a kid that was born just as parts,
Right. That second child,
born
yeah.
to have her, to use her organs for the other. And obviously she's not, being used as a cancer patient, but they had a second child, and the first one was their holy grail, and they
Right.
lost that. So being the middle kid, Emma now being put on that pedestal, it's kind of similar to My Sister's Keeper.
Yeah, being replaced is
Right.
one way of seeing it too. And
Mhm.
clearly Camille never had a great relationship. You see it throughout the show. She's not close with her stepfather, and she's not close with Adora. And it feels like every time Camille needed Adora, she kind of wasn't there. We see later in the episode Adora and Alan, the stepfather, visit Camille at this rehab facility, and I don't know, I don't really know what happens, but anyways, Adora just leaves abruptly, and it's like it's Camille needing her even then, maybe just to support her to get through the rest of her treatment, and she's just continuously letting her down.
Yeah, that, obviously we're not parents, but to see that was pretty disheartening. To see
Yeah. Oh
your
my God.
support system, your parent, give up on you like that, and that has to be soul crushing, especially for somebody in a rehab facility. I mean, that's call number one to be on suicide watch. I mean, I don't know what else could put you over the line. But yeah, I mean, Adora is not the perfect mother, that's for sure. And she's got her flaws, but like you said, we learn a little bit more about her tough situation that she's dealing with at the same time. There's a weird scene where Camille follows Emma to a pig farm. And at first, I did not know what the pig farm meant, but then I figured out after being there that the Preakers own this pig farm. It's a slaughterhouse. It's their main source of business, and it's probably one of the biggest businesses in Wind Gap. But it's also one of the rumored locations for one of the murders because of tire tracks and things like that. So I think Emma knows Camille's following her there, but it's kind of a weird scene because they don't converse. They never become that close together, but the the scene definitely serves a purpose in some way.
I feel so too. Yeah, and Camille even goes as far as to follow Emma throughout the farms, and
Mm-hmm.
you see this weird scene where a man comes out behind a door and is holding, a little pig, and just gives it to Emma. And before Emma, walks to the door, she kind of looks back. Do you think that she knew she was there the whole time, Juggy?
I do, yeah.
Which is, to me, that's creepy. That just, I'm just getting red flags from Emma overall. She's a weird little girl,
Yeah.
very strange, and yeah, I'm not sure what to think of her.
Yeah, no, neither. I think she's a fantastic actress. I think
Me
she's
too.
playing
For a
this
young actress.
role really, really well.
Oh yeah, big time. You said at the beginning there's a lot of strong woman leads in this show, and
Yeah.
I mean the combination of her, Amy Adams playing Camille, and Patricia Clarkson playing Adora are all fantastic.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's a great show because they got, the stepfather, I don't know his name offhand, but he's been in some really good movies and shows over the years. And he's just he's just there. So it tells you how much
he be in, Juggy?
he was in this show called Revenge, and it was on for probably 4 or 5 years, and it was on ABC. It was one of the most popular shows on television for a long time, and he played this father who was murderer and kind of a shitty father.
Is that foreshadowing, maybe?
Yeah, it could be. Definitely could have been. But he's good too in his own way. He's kind of a weird guy, always listening to music and drinking.
Yeah,
but
actually, since we're on that topic, I was just going to say there's a heavy emphasis on the show through music. Obviously, we
Right.
first see it where Camille's driving to Wind Gap from St. Louis. She's blaring Led Zeppelin, just blaring this heavy rock, and we find out through another flashback that she had this inspiration from this girl. I don't even know that. I feel bad because I don't know. Did she ever say her name?
I don't remember hearing a name. It might have been Alice. Maybe.
Alice. Okay, so we'll just call her Alice. Alice is the roommate for Camille at this rehab center during her flashbacks, and she's the one who gets her into this music. She, what do you listen to? And it's like, oh, I'm not really into music, but every time she's in her car or she's in the bath or doing something, she's always listening to music.
Yeah.
You could tell that this girl had a very big impact on Camille overall. And then also with Alan, he's always, like you said, he's always listening to music. He's always got a record on, blaring it throughout the house. So there's just a heavy emphasis on music for some reason. And yeah, it's awesome. If you're a Led Zeppelin fan like I am, obviously you're loving it because just to hear those tunes is great. And you like that scene where Camille's in her car and she lets it run dead because she's just in there whipping her head, jamming out. It's just a neat scene.
Yeah, it's true because her roommate asked her, like, come listen, put an earphone in, like, let's just listen to music. And she goes, no, I hate music. And who hates music? I mean, that kind of tells you something about Camille. Like, who hates music? Like, you could be the most crusty bastard in the planet. You like somebody. Sinatra, maybe somebody. You're gonna give somebody a listen, I think. But
oh my god, yeah.
But no, I found that really interesting too. So after the flashback, Camille goes to the Keane household, and she wants to talk to Natalie's the deceased. She wants to talk to her older brother John. He's another suspect. He's a weird guy. His younger sister, who was significantly younger than him, was his best friend, which was a little bit of a red flag, like I mentioned last week for me. But he's kind of a fragile guy, maybe just an emotional person. But his girlfriend, Ashley Wheeler, is kind of the mouthpiece for him. He's been living with her for since Natalie's death, and even before that, because he doesn't have a great relationship with his parents. And Ashley says, well, if you want to talk to John, sure. Yeah, come on over. Like, I'll set it up. And I don't know what to make of Ashley yet. She's another interesting character. I think she's another good actress. But she's got some skeletons in her closet. Something's not all the way 100 with her.
Okay. from what I can tell right now, she just kind of feels like she runs John's show a little bit. Maybe not all the way, but she definitely, by setting this up, she's always like making comfy. It's actually a funny scene. So Camille goes over to interview John, and she's wearing her cheerleading outfit, and Camille's like, oh, like I thought school. Did you guys have school today? She's like, no, I'm just wearing this.
Yeah.
So I think she's kind of in it for her 15 minutes as well. And she knows,
Right.
John's the hot topic right now because of his sister, probably because he's a prime suspect for the killings. And, she's just kind of there like, oh yeah, like I'll get in. She's even answering John's questions, which I was like, oh my God, this girl's running this guy's life.
Yeah. And John's kind of an idiot. He admits he has no alibi. Said he was driving by himself.
Yeah, but then it seems like he's hiding something, right? Like,
yes,
he's almost like trying to tell Camille, but Ashley's like, no, John, like, no, like, don't say that. So
yeah, you're with me.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously there's a bigger story behind it, but as of right now, we don't really know anything because Ashley keeps covering it up.
Yeah, no, so he doesn't have an alibi, but then he mentions, this is kind of interesting. John mentions that Bob Nash's daughter Anna was no saint. Anna and Natalie hung out. They were actually good friends, but they're both a little rough when it came to getting in shouting matches, potentially getting into violent altercations with each other. And he wanted to make it seem like Anna was the main aggressor between the two of them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But,
I was just gonna say, pointing back to what you said about being emotional, like he just kind of flat up gets up, like after talking a little bit with Camille, he just gets up and leaves the interview because he just can't handle it. So yeah, he's clearly a different guy. You can tell that right away. But yeah, obviously he's gonna play a bigger part than we may think.
Yeah, and so as we get towards the end of episode 3, we'll get to the real stuff at the end. But Camille, they're at their house. Camille has gone through a bunch of interviews. She had her altercation with Adora. Emma's there. They're talking, and they kind of make this truce. They both say, "Okay, let's both stay home tonight." There's the curfew. Please don't go with Emma at least for mom's sake. Just please do it for her. Do it for me. Like, let's just stay put. And Emma says, "Yeah, I promise." But Camille doesn't. To Emma's credit, Camille doesn't follow through either. She decides to go to the bar. She
just to butt in there for a second. There's a scene where she walks into, it scared me a little bit. It was a little bit of a jump scare. She walks into her deceased sister's room, Marilyn or Marion.
Yeah.
And she's looking at her stuff. Obviously, she looks in the mirror and she can see her dead sister, and she's got blood going down. And every time she seems to have these like awful flashbacks, she has to start drinking. You know what I mean? It's like she's trying to wash that pain away. So sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. I just thought
it's a good point. Yeah, you're right. It's definitely her vice. And she uses, obviously it's not great how she uses alcohol, because using that to get rid of your problems is not a great answer. So we'll get to that. But so she goes to the bar and she gets drunk like she has every time she's gone to this local bar, except she does it with the detective. And they start kind of flirting. They're hanging out and they're getting closer, but not just on a professional level, kind of on a personal level too, as much as Camille can share with a person. And they take some liquor. They go to the local hangout spot because that's where the detective wanted to be, to see if people were out at night, things of that nature, strange people. And when they're there, they're sitting on the car hood. Who comes through? Emma and the rollerblading crew, where they're drunk and rollerblading by, and Emma just starts berating Camille, talking about how Richard was gonna fuck her, and that, Camille loved him, and, just, she said some really, really kind of personal, off the cuff stuff about Camille, and it seemed out of character, but it was,
Yeah, even her friends were kind of getting at her too, like getting at
yeah,
both of them. Like, it was just super, super weird.
yeah. And she actually started flirting with the detective, saying, maybe you want to sleep with me, kind of thing. And so it was a mess. And Emma eventually leaves, and Camille decides to walk home by herself because she's just fed up. And I just kind of wrote my notes. Emma was a total bitch, which, I
Yeah, she
mean,
was, and this is the two faces that I talked about earlier. You see the one face where she's, she's drunk, she's hugging Camille, being super nice to her, and then it seems like whenever she has a crowd around her, it's when she kind of
yeah,
brings out this other personality where she's going to be nasty. She's going to rip out the claws. At one point, she sticks out a sucker in Camille's hair, just kind of like
right.
kind of as a fuck you for walking away from her.
Yeah. And yeah, no, you're right. She loves the attention, and to be the center of attention is definitely something that she craves. So this brings us to the end of the episode, and it's a flashback. Um this scene was tough. Even for me, who's kind of like, human cyborg. Uh I if you got a weak stomach, this show is going to be tough for you, especially this scene, because this is one of the more graphic suicides I've ever seen in a show. I don't know about you, Shay, but this was what happens with
It's up there.
Camille. Is pretty. You see basically all of it, and
Well, it's and what's happened. What's wrong with it is it's shocking. The first part of it's shocking, but then the second part is even more shocking. So you're like, at first you're like, oh god, that's gross, and then you're like, oh god, that is gross. And I'll let you
yeah,
describe it because I just don't think I can.
yeah. So we see that Camille checks herself back into rehab, and I think it's more of a visit than it is her checking herself in, Shay, because she's kind of she's kind of comforting Alice, and they're listening to music together. And it didn't seem like it was the first time. It didn't seem like she was having a bunch of, to me anyway, it just seemed a bit different. Maybe she knew Alice needed her. And so she's listening to music with her. She gets a knock on the window from the nurse, and she goes out and takes a phone call. And she's on the phone. And when she gets back in the room, she finds Alice has slit her wrist. There's blood everywhere. She's left a rose on top of her pillow, which was kind of a symbolic, gesture of kind of a probably "I love you," a great friendship kind of thing. However long it lasted, and we don't even know if it was outside of the rehab facility. But when they were there, they were very close. And Camille runs to the toilet immediately and throws up, but she sees behind the toilet that there's a loose screw. And she takes the loose screw off the toilet and starts digging into her wrist, attempting to commit suicide. And she's cutting deep. It's a clear attempt to kill herself. This was not just a cry for help. She wanted to die in this scenario. And it's tough. It's tough to watch. Two nurses have to pull her off. She's kind of screaming. And at the same time, in the real world, she's kind of having a tough night because she's driving home drunk after seeing Emma, and she starts cutting fix into her arm, which is the name of the episode. And she abruptly stops her car in the middle of the road at a road sign that says St. Louis 90 miles, and the episode just ends like that. And but yeah, I'll let you just jump in your thoughts on that scene and how the episode ended.
Yeah, well, no, it's crazy. The last 5 minutes obviously are the focal point for the episode, because they tie in this flashback she's having throughout the whole episode together, and why that rehab was so important to her. And let's just take this as an example. This is another young girl that Camille knew, let her kind of get into her life, and just abruptly is taken out of it because she takes her own life. And obviously, you know, they're close, or they seem close anyways. And one scene that, you know, I think is strong is, you know, Alice is kind of in her own bed crying, and she looks at Camille and she says, you know, does this thing with your parents ever get better? Because neither one of them have a very, like, they I think their parents don't understand them. Each
Right.
girl,
Yeah, they don't have a stable base.
right. I mean, for Camille, I mean, her mom just abruptly left her, and I think her dad was just like, here's some flowers, peace out. We're going back to Wing Cap.
Yeah.
But you know, she asked her, and this is, and I thought about this, and this is maybe not a character flaw, but it's just something about Camille. Camille just honest says, it's because she's so honest. She's just like, yes, or no, sorry. She says,
No.
no, it doesn't get better. And you know, I think it's not like 5 or 6 minutes after that is when Alice takes her life. So clearly, that's something Camille, as like, she's dealing with, because maybe she thought she caused it.
She might have blamed herself.
Yeah, and then the only thing I was going to touch on is when she's driving, which, you know, she's obviously speeding, and when she makes that abrupt stop, she stops, and there's Alice's body, you know, kind of in the middle of the road, almost like a ghost. So you kind of get these vibes, like these people are kind of always with Alice. Same with her former sister Marilyn, or Marion, I forget her name. But yeah, it was probably my favorite episode so far out of the 4, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. It's crazy to say it's the favorite episode when you see all the shit.
People are gonna think we're dark.
I agree with you. I think it was great acting, great plot lines, and it's, again, for everybody. You know, I know I was talking to my mother. She read the book, and I'm like, I don't know if you can watch this show, Mom. Like, she's not going to do well with this. So I think a lot of mothers will struggle with this show.
Yeah. Oh, especially with think about loss of their children and stuff like that. I'm sure it'd be difficult.
So yeah, that ends the episode. Like, I agree with you, it's the best one so far. You know, episode 4, it's another good one. It starts where, you know, Camille parked her car on the side of the road and slept in the grass at this location the whole night. Could have been, like you said, she saw Alice's ghost, and maybe she felt like Alice was there and she wanted to be with her, kind of thing. That's kind of how
I never thought of that. Yeah.
Because we've seen her sleep in her car. It's not like she hasn't done that before. But this is a little different, had a different feel. So, and I wrote this down as a theme just to bring up with you, Shay. I don't think she should be writing this story. What about you? How do you feel about that?
No, because I think, you know, as much as the editor, who keeps calling, thinks that it's, you know, kind of her facing her demons and facing her past, I think it's just bringing up more bad shit, if anything, because we'll see in this episode some, you know, she obviously has some severe trauma with what she's went through as a child and growing up in Wind Gap. And yeah, it's just brought to light, and I don't know if it's doing her any good, because honestly, it's probably doing her more harm than it is good.
Yeah, I personally think her seeing her mother again hurts her every time.
Oh, yeah.
Coming back here, like you said, this episode we learn a lot of stuff about her past and some of the terrible stuff that happened to her. Yeah, the editor, I think he thinks it's going to be cathartic, but it's more of a nightmare, because every bad thing that's happened in her life has happened in Wind Gap, and it's hard to escape all of that. So I just wanted to bring that up, because especially being from there and her mental state, I don't think it's the best thing for her to be writing the story. But yeah. So yeah, she sleeps there overnight. That's pretty funny. We then pivot to Richard, the Kansas City detective, and Chief Vickery. They still have this little rivalry going, but they both know different people in the community, and they agree to share information. The Kansas City detective says he's going to go talk to Camille that day. Vickery actually goes and visits Adora twice in this episode, which is interesting. We'll get into that. But he also has good relationships. He hears things on the street. So they agree to become, you know, silent partners, so to speak, and at least share information, because they both want to catch the killer. They both have the same goal. They just have different ways of going about it.
Yeah. I trust the detective more than I trust
Yeah.
Chief Vickery, but no, yeah, you're right. They make this agreement, and it's good. And in the last episode, we see a closer bond, obviously, between Camille and what's his name again?
Richard.
Richard Willis, yeah. So Richard and Camille, they get this closer bond. They kind of agree that the detective he'll give up more information about the case for every crime that Camille shows him that happened in Wingate.
Right.
I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get into that's an interesting one. We'll get into that. So before that, Camille has to go to this kind of, I call it a rich socialite dinner. I thought of the movie The Blind Side, and you see Sandra Bullock go out with all her rich married friends to this dinner in that movie. If you think of the scene where they talk about Michael Orr being black, living with Collins, that's how I kind of think of these women. And Adora can't go because she cut her hand, which is another ridiculous, but she sends Camille, where Camille obviously has no interest in going to this dinner. She doesn't fit in with this group of women, but nevertheless, she's going. So she shows up, and what do these women do? What do they do best? Gossip. They start gossiping about who killed the two women, and it's basically a debate around, was it Bob Nash or was it John Keane?
Yeah, no, it's just funny. It's just so much. Me and you both know it because we grew up in small towns. It's just small town drama, and it's just getting together. It's kind of what people do best. And there's even one point where I think one girl is like, yeah, I think Nash did it because I think he killed his own daughter, and then I think he killed that other daughter just to cover it up and make it look like John did it. And I'm like, holy, they're probably doing better work than the detectives are doing, to be honest. Like, how in depth they're thinking.
No, yeah, you're right. I agree. And so, Emma, just about her in general, we kind of touched on it. She's kind of a showboat around her friends. She's a young girl, so she's still immature, but that's to be warranted. I mean, she's 16 or 17 in the show. But there's a scene where her and her friends are either in a drama or a history class. I couldn't figure out which one because they were doing kind of a history of Wingate, but it includes, obviously acting and performance. So it could have been either. But they do this scene, and they're doing it in front of Mr. Lacey. And this guy's a weird looking guy.
We'll get into him in a second.
Yeah, he leaves the classroom because he's got a call or something. Then Emma goes out to see him, just to check up on him, and she kind of flirts with him, grabs his hand. Really inappropriate, but this guy, we don't know a lot about him yet, but he's giving off weird vibes.
Yeah, and he's clearly someone we've seen before in the episode, but it's like you see him for a second and then he's gone, kind of deal. You're not really told who he is or what, if he has a past. I kind of feel like him and Camille have some kind of past with each other, but it's not brought to light just yet.
Right.
So yeah, no, but and the first thing I'm thinking of, this guy's got to be a clear suspect. A, he's super strange. B, he works in the school with the girls there.
Right.
And C, he's I don't know, just an overall weird and
seems like a pervert
dude. Yeah, kind of a little bit. So I was even surprised when he pulled his hand away when Emma goes to reach for it, because I was like, okay, maybe he's into that kind of stuff. But we'll see.
And we heard Richard say that the person who killed these girls tracked them. He hunted them, so to speak. He would be able to track them pretty well, leaving from school every day at the exact same time. So I agree with you. I think he became a suspect, even if he's not on the radar of the chief or detective yet. Detective and Camille, they meet and they go and they start sharing information. She brings him into the woods, and she kind of shows him the spot where a log is, where there was a murder there a long time ago. it was kind of it. She kind of says it was a murder, but they couldn't prove it because they couldn't find the weapon, so it was ruled a suicide, which was interesting. And then they keep walking, and this is where it gets personal for Camille. She shares a story about a spot where it really is a spot where every week or so, the high school football team would, lack of a better word, gang rape cheerleaders. They would bring a cheerleader out there thinking that, they were just out there to have fun or what have you. And these football players would gang rape women, and she doesn't have to say it, but we learned, Shay, in this scene that Camille was clearly one of the cheerleaders that was raped.
Yeah, you see it throughout the episode. It's kind of gives flashbacks, and without saying it directly, I mean, obviously it's her because we see a younger version of herself there. But yeah, I mean, it's a powerful thing, really, because I mean, it probably tells a lot of why she has had this terrible case of depression, and maybe tells us more about why she is the way she is.
Yeah. So that's clearly a tough one. I think the detective knows that she was raped, and he's kind of taken aback by it, and he says this is so disgusting. Like, he's clearly a guy that wants to do right, and he said, I wish I was back here back then, I would have put an end to this kind of thing. And he clearly cares for Camille, but he cares. I think he's a good human being all in all.
Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. I mean, he's very dedicated to the case, which that's why he kind of comes off as an asshole, because he can't say a whole lot to Camille. But throughout this episode, we kind of see his better half, I would guess you would say.
So yeah, as they're sharing information, he kind of says, he shares some stuff that he thinks it was a crime of passion, like he told the chief. He says he thinks it's somebody from Wing Gap. He does think it's a male, because of the pliers and the teeth in the first victim, that you have to be strong to do that. So she kind of gets that information. And as they keep walking, we go back to the shed, and we've seen the shed in the woods multiple times during Camille's flashbacks. And this is another terrible spot for her. She says that the detective believes that the two girls were meeting in this shed, or supposed to meet in the shed, so to speak. And, they were taken by a hunter who was watching them, knew what they were doing every day, and kind of took them. And she didn't know this before either. So this was new information for her, but we don't know the full extent of her, her time in the shed. But it could have something to do with the rape, but with a lot of stuff, maybe with her sister too. I think there's still a story to be told.
Well, one thing that we know, Juggy, is that when that happened to her, she had longer hair. This this gang rape where she was which back to when she was a cheerleader herself. But it seemed like her trauma, just remembering from the first episode, comes from when she has shorter hair. So I'm just taking it that she was maybe a little bit younger than that.
Right.
So I think it might even be two different things. That and then whatever happened in the shed, which is still, we don't know what happened there yet. But I feel like it's important, but we're just not revealed that quite yet.
Yeah. I think that's still to come, and it's a good little cliffhanger because we've seen it multiple times, but we don't know why.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah. So, it's at this point, it's weird. They've been talking about murder and rape all afternoon, and of course, Camille and the detective, they start to heat up a little bit, but it's kind of weird because not in the conventional sense. Camille kind of pulls down her pants, and then she doesn't kiss him or anything, and I don't, we don't get to see the whole scene, but I don't think they had sex. But they kind of hug, and he kind of, puts his hands down there, but it's another weird, it kind of fits Camille. She's weird.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a weird scene, but she's just no kissing, just not there yet. Just gonna get her digs and take off, I guess.
Yeah. At the same time, Chief Vickery came to see Adora for the second time, and it seemed like 2 days. They have a really close relationship. I don't know if they're sleeping together. They definitely could be. They definitely close friends. She knows his drink by hand. And she's close to him anyway, and he tells her a lot of information. And I don't know if you got this sense, but I feel like she has a subtle control over him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She's a powerful woman, and I she he kind of tells her about the case, and that he's starting to lean towards it being somebody from Wind Gap, which he would never admit to the detective. But he tells Adora, I think it's a local. Like, I'm really starting to flip my mind into believing that one of our own killed these 2 young girls.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to your point about being control, it's kind of funny. I think the main reason for his visit, other than talk about this case, was I feel like Adora hosts some kind of event, like it's some outdoor gathering with a lot of people, clearly. And he's like, I'm thinking maybe we should cancel that this year due to what's going on with the town. And she's like, no, like, it's got to keep going. It's a morale booster. Everyone will kind of, with all this, negativity going on in the town, this will help. And then she kind of leans towards the fact, like, people can have you removed from being chief.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd think that it would kind of make him nervous, but they just kind of laugh about it.
Yeah.
But I think she's being serious in
she's
all
being serious
fashion,
for sure.
But they're both just kind of like, yeah. So I feel like they do have a very casual, maybe very intimate relationship, but we don't know that just yet. And we clearly see that it bothers Alan, the stepfather, because he's watching them alone. He's a very creepy guy.
Yeah.
And he brings it up later. He's like, I don't know why. He says something along the lines of, like, I don't know why, you never recognized my what's the word I'm looking for?
Kind of my contributions or my my presence, even, like, he's
kind of towards this whole thing with her daughter dying, and you never really acknowledged that, or how much I was there for you. And anyways, he's a needy guy, but obviously he's got some demons for sure.
Yeah, and it's strange because we see in this episode that they don't even share a room. He basically asks her, do you need anything else tonight? And then he takes off. I don't know. They got a weird relationship going on. We'll touch on it as we get going here. John Keane, his girlfriend's kind of talk. It's kind of a throwaway scene, but I thought I'd touch on it. His girlfriend's kind of talking to him, and she seems like religious, but again, I mentioned her before. She's kind of a weirdo. He abruptly leaves her house, but she says, no, I'll let you put it in me or whatever. And he still leaves. He goes and gets a spider, which was in Natalie's room. And then he goes to the bar where he talks to Camille, and they kind of bonded over losing a sibling. And he kind of tells Camille that Natalie had a rage issue, and that her and Anna were good friends, but they were kind of both antagonists, and there was somebody in the middle kind of stopping them from really doing harm to each other. And Camille's like, well, who's the middle woman? And he says, oh, you don't know? Well, Emma was kind of the third wheel in that friendship.
Yeah, it says they were inseparable.
They were inseparable. And within seconds, Camille leaves the bar and clearly knows something is wrong.
I don't even know how to explain it. It happens so quickly, Juggy. Just like 1 minute you're there, and then you don't. For me, this scene, I don't know what's real and what's not real.
Agreed.
And the first place that Camille goes is home, because she thinks that Emma will be there. Of course, Emma being Emma, she's never home at night. I think we kind of concluded that she's always out with her friends. She's always doing something at night.
That was stupid. To me, that was stupid. I would never have went home first.
Well, yeah, because because I mean, at this point, she should have known that Emma was not going to be there in hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we can talk through the scenes. I wrote down a bunch of stuff. I really don't know what's the truth and what's not.
It's crazy, yeah.
So then Camille hightails it from home because she knows that's not going anywhere. But at the same time, we mentioned the stepfather, who's this weird fucking loose cannon, grabs a gun and goes upstairs into Adora's room, and he gets close to her, but I don't know if he shoots her or what happens. But
Yeah,
do you have a read on that scene?
No, not really, because I mean, clearly, but throughout the episode, we could tell that there was some tension between them because of what has going on between Chief and Adora. But yeah, it's just it's I don't know, there's nothing before this that indicated that Alan was going to pull something extreme like this out of his ass. But I don't know. He's a weird dude. There's other scenes where he looks just nervous, like he just kind of looks nervous. You know what I mean? Sometimes. So I don't know, and obviously we don't know what happens because it ends there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that scene does.
Yeah. So yeah, that scene kind of, we don't know what happens, but he's bringing a gun. That's not good. So Camille's driving through town, and like you said, it's so hard to pencil together what's real and what's not, because she's driving, but it's like she's high. It's like a trance. We see Emma skateboarding, like a foot in front of her, but it's like she's not there. And then, Emma's with her friends skateboarding, and then there's two skateboarders that aren't Emma in front of her. And then it's a quick pivot, quick camera cut, and Camille's in the woods, opens up the shed that we've seen multiple times just recently in this episode, and Emma's dead body, is basically decaying. It looked like a pretty brutal death, and she's laying there dead in the shed. But I don't know if that's real or not. I think it is, but I'm not 100%. I like to start episode 5. That's my biggest thing. Is she really deceased? Because I'm not 100% convinced.
Yeah, this isn't a show that really gives you cliffhangers, but this is the biggest cliffhanger for sure. It's also the halfway point, because
Right.
That's the beginning of episode 5, or the halfway point for the series. There's only 8 episodes in total. But it's just crazy. Yeah, it's like it's almost like a dream state, Juggy, where you can't tell if something's going on, what's real, what's not real. She keeps having flashbacks. At one point, it looks like she's going to drive right into Emma. So it's just confusing as a viewer, because we really have no grasp on what's going to happen. And immediately I wanted to flip on episode 5, but I'm going to hold myself off to it, because like I said before, I want to be fresh for when we do these. Oh, it's going to be good. I'm highly anticipating. It's a great way to end the episode, I would say.
Agreed. Yeah. Do you think she's dead?
I don't think so. I think it was a dream state. I don't know if she's been boozing too much or what, but I don't think so. Only because I feel like Emma plays a bigger part than just being deceased. I feel like there's more to her character that we'll find out later.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think she's been such a prevalent character so far. The only way I could see it working is if her character starts coming back in flashback form or something.
Maybe.
I don't know how, but with her being the influence on the two friends, it does make a lot of sense that she would be the third one dead. You got to complete the trifecta.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
For this murderer. And
because maybe. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this teacher becomes the top suspect.
For sure. Just because of how close they seem to be, or Emma was kind of leading them on. I don't know what kind of way. I don't know if she has a little crush on him, or if she's just trying to get under his skin, which she seems to do so well with so many other characters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he is 100% the top prospect after this. And for the killer. Maybe if Emma, maybe she knew who the killer was, and maybe because she was so close with Natalie and Anne, that's why it makes the most sense to have her killed off. So I could see it both ways, but obviously I'm rooting for her not to be dead. But we'll see.
Yeah, same. I really enjoyed her character, so I think it would be tough to see her go. Also, we got to learn what happened with Adora.
And
That could be a whole other shit show there. But yeah, at first I was starting to think in episode 3, okay, it was one of those skater, it's either Emma or one of her friends that's killing these girls.
Really, what made you think that?
Just the skateboarding. It was such an under the radar little plot line. Like these are always they're rollerblading. I mean, and they're going around. And I saw Emma's such an interesting character. Maybe she's a killer. Like it wouldn't shock me to see her character do that.
Oh, we also missed a huge episode, and we'll just touch on this quickly because I know we're running a little long, but we found out kind of why Adora is so resentful towards Camille in this episode. Camille comes home one night. Actually, this is kind of weird. I think it was the detective drops off Camille. They kind of share a quick smooch, and then she walks in. Clearly, Adora's watching them the whole time because she's so nosy. And she's like, "Oh, like sorry, Mama. Like I didn't need to. Like I hope I didn't wake you up. Whatever." And it's this point where we find out Adora basically had Camille at a very young age, and she was trying to prove to her own mother that she was capable of being a mother herself.
Mm-hmm.
And Camille obviously was a struggling child. She probably was not the easiest person to raise. She wouldn't eat, we found out, as a baby, and all these things just made Adora, in her mind, look awful towards her mother. And how we know how she feels about not looking good.
Yeah.
So, and then it's this moment that she gets really close to Camille, and she goes, you know what you coming back here is like, and it's like you're right. And then that's obviously that's the title of the episode, and she says it so subtly. It's kind of very, very disturbing. I don't know how you felt about it, but
yeah, she's so cold to Camille.
Yeah.
It's never her fault. That's for sure. It's, you're doing this to me. It's me. And I think Emma's got a little bit more of her mother in her than Camille does. But yeah, no, that is a good scene that I missed. And thank you for bringing that up. But yeah, both these episodes were really good, if you ask me. Really, I mean, obviously they're creating the show based off a book, so you got to work off the book. And I think, but with the makeup, with the cuts and everything, with the suicide scene, the flashbacks, which I think are really strong, the younger Amy Adams character looks exactly like her. I think that's brilliant the way they casted that. This show's been hitting on all cylinders for me. There's 4 episodes. I give it a 8 to 9 out of 10. Like, I think it's been fantastic.
No, I agree 100%. And I, like I said, I love the music choice. Anyone who listens to that kind of music is definitely gonna love this as well, because it's played throughout. But yeah, no, it's creepy, but it's good. And what I love about the flashbacks is some are real, some aren't real. You kind of don't know, and I love that. I just love the fact that they might show you something, but that doesn't mean it actually happened. So he kind of leaves it to the imaginative. And yeah, I don't know, the great character choice too, and they're just strong acting all around.
No, totally agree. So yeah, that's gonna do it for episodes 3 and 4. We'll be back next Tuesday, episodes 5 and 6. We'll learn about Emma, and I'm sure a whole lot more in Wind Gap and what's happening with Camille and the murderer. But Shay, big week for you. Obviously, your Leafs got 3 games set against the Winnipeg Jets. How does the confidence meter for you heading into this big 3-game stretch?
Not strong, but we'll see. If anything's happened this year, when it feels like you're going to lose, you're going to win, and whenever you feel like it's going to win, you're going to lose. So, yeah, not confident with Winnipeg rolling on all cylinders and Toronto just playing like dog shit. Let's just be honest, his last few games. But we'll see. I mean, it's anything can happen. So I think you told me before Matthews is for sure not playing tonight.
No, I think he is playing. He's just got just the wrist is a tad sore.
Yeah, I don't know what to make of that, and it's kind of like I'm not going to compare him to like a LeBron, but so when a grill, well, no, but like when you're the only player on your team and you're not playing, obviously your team is going to struggle, and that's kind of feels like what's happening. Matthews just runs without no points these last few games, and they're not winning. So it's up to the rest of the team though to pull it together. Obviously, JT got a nice goal on Saturday, but I mean everybody's got to be better.
No, for sure. But 3 games set. They played 9 times the next 23 games. God. But who doesn't love all these teams playing 3 times in a week? I know. I just can't wait.
You're not gonna miss this setup, are you?
I'll never miss this setup again. No.
Yeah.
And people are gonna hate me on the podcast for saying it, but when this Canadian division is dead, I hope it's dead forever. Because I can't stand it. But great show tonight as always. Enjoy the rest of the week, Shay, and as always, thanks again for coming on.
Yes, you as well. See ya.
Everybody, take care, stay safe, and enjoy yellow while we can. And we'll talk soon.